Hi, Robin. We are live.
Hi Lucy, how are you?
I'm great, and you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Yeah, pretty good. Can't complain.
Where are you now?
I'm in a town called Lewes, which is East Sussex, the UK. Um,
Okay.
yeah, and you?
From now, I'm in Lyon, in France.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, very nice.
Yeah, it's really cool. So, are you from there originally?
Yeah, so, well, how long we got? I was born in London, and
Okay.
then when I was 1.5, my parents moved to Melbourne, Australia.
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up there, and we came backwards and forwards a little bit. Um, and then when I was 14, I came to this town, Lewis, so I went to college and then university. And
Okay.
then I lived in London for 15 years after doing my masters. And last year, I moved here with my family, knowing that it was a good place to have a family and young children. So yeah.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, I can tell you have the accent.
Yeah, my accent is a bit confused. It's a bit Australian-y and a bit Englishy.
Exactly.
So it's sort of
Exactly.
yo-yos between the two. Um,
It's a mix.
so yeah, it's a mix. And funnily enough, I mean, in many ways, the project Bastard Countryside is about this sort of confusion of accents and identity, and yeah, not feeling Australian, not feeling English. And that's why I started making these pictures in the landscape in England, trying to find elements of the Australian landscape, I guess. So I was looking for sort of rusty oranges and silver hues,
Okay.
the palette of my sort of childhood memory, if you like. Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna go back to this work a bit later. But first, for the people who don't know you, so you are a photographer. But when did you start photographing? Did you study it? Did you learn it by yourself? How was the process of being photographer for you?
Yeah, so I guess there's a few chapters and stages there. I remember being given a small red camera from my grandma when I was about 7 or 8. And I remember it just being this sort of magical box that allowed me to, I guess, see and question the world differently. So back then it was just going into the garden and looking for insects and, sort of a bit like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, trying to get as close to the grass as possible.
Okay.
And so, yeah, it felt really exciting. And obviously it was a little film camera. And that whole waiting period where you've taken a roll of film and then you take it to the photo lab or the chemist back then, and that anticipation of waiting those three or 4 days or whatever it was,
Oh,
um, got me really excited about this sort of magical alchemy of picture making. And then I guess fast forward to sort of my late school days, I studied it a little bit, and got hooked again. And then I went off to do a Bachelor of Arts and a Master's at the Royal College of Art about 15 years ago. And then obviously I was really deep into it. Yeah.
okay. So yeah, so photography is something really important for you in your life since, as you said, since you are a kid, actually.
Yeah. Well, it's just, yeah, way before the kids. It was, yeah, I guess I've been professional for about 15, 17 years now.
Oh wow.
And yeah, there's been different chapters, to do my professional
Yes.
career as well. It's changed from being a more editorial photographer to being a more fine art photographer. I did these 2 big book commissions just out of the Royal College of Art, which took me to America, and it was a book commission, and it was called Art Studio America, and we photographed some really amazing artists like Julian Schnabel and Jeff Koons and Lorna Simpson, and there was 120 of these amazing creatives that I visited, and I saw how they ran their studio. And yeah, from then on, my own ideas flourished, about the kind of artist and photographer I wanted to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, this is what was one of my question actually. Now we can see that you are doing mostly landscape photographic, but it wasn't what you used to do since you start. You evolve, like as you said. And what did bring you into landscaping photography? Because now it's a major part of your work, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I touched upon it a little bit before, but I think it was just about to find out. For me, photography is always this journey of questions and trying to find answers in things that you perhaps don't understand or can't contextualize. And so, yeah, it was when we moved back from Australia, and I was, I guess, a little bit lost, if you like. I'd left my sort of group of friends there, and I was trying to sort of find myself in England, this country that I was born in, but didn't feel any connection to. So I would start going out into the landscape and trying to find these connections that reminded me of my time back in Australia. And so that's when I really got the landscape bug, and I started using this big, large format camera, which enabled you to see everything completely sharp, and it's one of these old cameras you go under and you have the cloth over you, glass plate at the back, and the detail is incredible. And you'll only take 1 or 2 pictures a day, really, which makes heightens your sense of vision and perception. So often you'll set up the camera and you won't even make a picture because it's not quite right for whatever reason. So it really educates you about as a photographer. It makes you a much better photographer, I think. And then I was taking, I guess, quite sort of general, sort of simplistic landscape pictures, and then the more I learned about the sort of history of photography and the contextual nature of it, I sort of deep dived into that, and my ideas started to sort of take shape and move on from just a pretty landscape,
Yeah, of course, this is what I saw. So when I had a look on your collection, Bastard Countryside, right?
Yeah.
What I saw was that you photography beautiful landscape, but mixed with some kind of industrial or human, how can I say, infrastructure in some of them. Like, for example, the ones that Jenny Dow are here, who is our background right now. We're gonna go, I'm gonna put it in full size later on because we really need some insight about it. But the first thing that I thought when I saw this collection was that for me, it reminded me a bit of urbex, urban exploration. Do you think, what is your point of view? Do you think it's a bit related? Because actually it's photographing human infrastructure, but when the nature is back to its place, what do you think?
Yeah, I wouldn't, I guess, label myself as that kind of photographer, but there's definitely those elements going on. I really started going to these sort of places whilst I was doing my master's at the RCA, the Royal College of Art, because it was a really weird time. I became really frustrated with photography. I was getting a bit, not bored of it, but it was the first time I sort of stopped believing in it. And the reason for that was because I felt it was becoming almost too easy to make pictures. It was sort of a transition from analog to digital. It felt like everybody was a photographer, and I was like,
yes,
do I still want to be doing this? But the light bulb moment was when I was thinking of this idea, and I was thinking, like, what's the main ingredient of photography? And it's obviously light. I've just noticed that it's getting really dark here, actually. Speaking of light, I hope
okay. We still you. Wonderful. You want to have the halo of the screen on you. It's perfect.
Yeah. Anyway, I hope you can see me. And so it's like the main ingredient is light. So let's go somewhere where there's no light at all, right? Take that main ingredient out of the equation. Mm-hmm. And so I started contacting these guys that were going down these old mines, these old Victorian slate mines, predominantly a few zinc mines, a few gold mines in North Wales in the UK. And it was a light bulb moment. So you'd have to. For me, it was about working hard for a picture. So really challenging myself to make it as hard as possible to get a good photograph. And so we'd go into these old mines and we'd use ropes to sort of abseil down, and we'd just have to sort of burrow through these tiny little holes and rock climb, and really sort of
Wow.
really tested my sort of not just picture making ability, but sort of physical fitness ability as well. And that's when I discovered that number 49, past the countryside, number 49, which is this old quarry with like hundreds of cars sort of thrown in, and
let's have a look on it, and like this you can explain it directly.
Sure,
I'm gonna try to explain it better for the people who don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's such an adventure. Like you need to have a good health and good physical condition.
Well, yeah, I don't think I'd be up for it anymore. But, back then, it was really important for me to be, challenged in that way. I mean, it's looking back, it's a bit silly. Yeah, so if you go to created, it's quite hard. That's it.
Which is it?
So it's number 49, just at the top.
Oh. This one.
Number 49, yeah. So it's called Gairworm. And so that picture in particular, it was this old quarry, which was now full of water, and it had this crack in the top left corner, as you can see.
Yeah.
It's on private land, so I guess over the course of 50, 60 years, this person has just been fly tipping and throwing, all these cars and washing machines and old TVs and whatever they can find into this old quarry. And a friend and I discovered it, and we had to go and get an inflatable boat. So we got the inflatable boat, pumped it up. They went into the water and moved away all the sort of things that were floating, like tires and washing machines and stuff like I mentioned before, because it was a really long exposure. And had we left those things floating, it would have ruined that sort of perfect crystal reflection.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
So the camera was set up on a tripod, and I was using a really powerful torch to sort of paint with light, they call it, and give some fill in to the cars. And then you had the natural light coming down, which enabled that sort of shaft of light effect. But yeah, so I've made lots of pictures like this. There was only one or two that made it into Bastard Countryside from the sort of mining, quarrying, abandoned Victorian mines project. But it was I mean, for me, it was a real sort of breakthrough moment, and it got me sort of back on track to make this body of work.
No, but it's so impressive. Like, this looked like a painting, actually. Really, you cannot believe that there is all this kind of human like life dead, and I don't know how to explain that. It's like past, and it's such a beautiful place. And actually, even if it should be trash, the way you took it with the colors, the blue of the car, the blue so pure of the water, it's kind of poetic. I don't know. I think it's what you want to express. I don't know, but it's beauty in something that is trash, actually. I mean, this is what I feel when I look at this one.
No, you hit that on the head perfectly. For me, it is about trash. It's about what trash can become. Roland Barthes, there's a quote from Roland Barthes, and he said the essence object is to do with how it turns into rubbish.
Yes.
And I guess that's like a speculation on what, when something's liberated, like these cars and these rusty things are liberated, yes, they become something extraordinary. They become something completely new. And for me, that's a lot of my work, particularly in Bastard Countryside, is all about that. It's all about these objects that have been abandoned and forgotten about, and left for dead. And it's, for me, I see so much beauty in them. They're sculptural, they're artworks in their own right, just sitting in the landscape waiting to be discovered.
So actually, people who do urbex, it's a kind of the same. They want to capture the beauty of an abandoned place. And there is a lot of people who are fascinated about abandoned places. Of course, you're not taking picture of houses or castle, but you still like share this, this magnificence of the old with the nature who took back, the power on it. How could you explain that so many people, and when I talk about people, I'm talking about the general public, are fascinated about abandoned places? Why is that, do you think?
Well, I think everyone brings their own story to that, but I mean, maybe it's like a sort of, for me, it's maybe a looking into the future of what, you know, what might happen to us. Bastard Countryside for me was all about this anxious nature. You know, it's just, for me, it's almost, it's happening right now, but it's also sort of looking into the future, into this, you know, to almost like a crystal ball of our relationship with the natural world and what we're doing to the planet, and if we keep going on this course, what will, you know, what will happen? You know, for me, there's only ever one winner in the battle between us and what we deem to be nature. You know, it's nature wins every time. So yeah, I guess it's almost like accepting our fate, you know, before it's happened. And for me, maybe that makes it a little bit easier to exist day to day, and just, you know, tap into the little moments. If I've already ticked this box off and know this is what's going to happen to my kids, it makes it a little bit easier to live, if that makes sense. Not sounding
I mean, actually, it totally makes sense, because everything that you photography at some moment was a presence. Okay, it was a present for some people, and now you are coming there as a visitor of the future, and you see how this present is now mixed to your present. I mean, this is what I understand from your explanation. So actually, our present right now, what we are letting, the objects that we are letting, maybe in 20, 25 years, 30 years, another photographer gonna come and gonna photograph this, and it's gonna get from the past. I mean, I don't know if it makes sense to what I said.
But no, it does absolutely. No, I think it does perfectly. I think it's something we're all, you know, existentialism, we're all dealing with it, and you know, it's also what we leave for the next generation as well, you know. And I think we have a duty of care to look after this planet as best as we can. And I know we've made some mistakes over the last 20, 30 years, if you like, but I think there's a big push now to try and put that right, you know. And for me, showing this in this way is all part of my tiny little gesture to help that happen, I think. Yeah.
No, it's beautiful, and actually this picture is so absolutely wonderful, and Jenny Dao is really happy, and our community too, that we occur it. So could you give us some insight about it? I mean, you already explained us, but what is it exactly? So you told us that it was taken in not Australia? No, in UK?
No, this is all in the UK, yeah. So
back here, yeah.
This is an old RAF site in Lincolnshire, up north. And so basically it would have been four big satellites left over from, well, before World War II. And these radars would have once been on big tripod legs. So they've been really tall into the sky. And it was quite a primitive sort of version of radar communication and listening. And yeah, in fact, I photographed this in 2018. And then maybe sort of a few months after I photographed it, it was scrapped for metal. And it was kind of crazy because they were grade 2 listed structures, which means they should have been protected. But because they're on private land, I think that the farmer or the person that owned the land essentially just scrapped it for the price of metal and what he could get for it. So there's now a legal dispute. I mean, they're gone now, but it's a real shame because people would used to go there, and like you'd have skaters going there and skating on them, and young people would have sort of free parties. And
it must be nice. And there's a satellite, because actually we cannot really see, but if we zoom on it, we see animals on the background. So that means that it's really huge, and you must feel small compared to it, no?
Yeah, massive. So they're cows in the background, and totally animals, and they were absolutely vast. So if you were to walk on one, you'd be sort of, you know, dwarfed, a little sort of small person, you know, in the landscape. But for me, they were again really beautiful, you know, beautiful structures. You know, one thinks of Anish Kapoor and, you know, his sort of sculptures, and yeah, they were just, even the palette, this sort of pinky sort of painterly palette, and the sort
it
of
makes so well with the background and with the purple of it. It's actually, it's really, you have the kind of countryside, and maybe this is why the name too. Because you have this kind of beauty of the flowers who are supernatural, and you have this huge shape who look like actually coming down from the sky, which is, you know, the case, and it's so like opposite, and it blends so well. It seems like the flower took the colors of the satellite, and the satellite took the color of the flowers. I don't know to explain, but it's
that's the perfect way of
better.
looking at it. It's like almost melting into the landscape, or vice versa, you know. It's very otherworldly. It's almost, yeah, like a UFO landing. It gestures to that. I'm in pitch black. Should I turn the light on? Should I turn the light on, do you think? Do you think I'm all
You
right?
can try now. It's just a bit black.
All right. It's part of the acting sort of world. So yeah, for me, it's, you mentioned the title, Bastard Countryside. Bastard Countryside is in fact a Victor Hugo quote from Les Miserables.
Yes.
When he coined the phrase in a story, he was thinking about Paris being this serpent that was spilling out into the countryside and like devouring everything, and then spitting it out to create these new hybrid sites, which were man-made, but it was the countryside and the city sort of splatting into each other to create these new sort of beautiful but ugly places.
Yes.
For me, this is a really perfect example of that. This piece, this diptych. It's also, yeah, it's got the military, the sort of industrialized sort of nod, which for me is really important. But it's for me that, yeah, a Bastard Countryside is the kind of landscape. It's this, when I was finishing off the collection, I would just be looking at the Bastard Countryside sort of specs, you know, with these Bastard Countryside glasses. It's a way of looking at the world that I feel, yeah, which I just tapped into at the time, and then I found it quite difficult to turn off. You know, it's. Yeah.
Of course, when you start to finally find yourself in your way of photography and your way to express it, I think everything that you see is even more interesting, because now you see it through another eyes, and you know that you can share it, and now you have the way to share what you feel and share it to other people. And this is a beautiful gift, to be able to share emotion, what you feel like, and to transmit it toward photographs. And I think it's really beautiful. And I tell you, our community is really, really happy from your work, and this is why this interview is really cool. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I just can't believe I'm in the dark.
You could try to light on, maybe.
It would look very different if I turn the light on, but maybe, yeah, it's strange. I'll do it.
Yes. Light
How's
again.
That?
Hi.
There we go.
Yeah, actually, now you have hair, because we just see your face.
And a shiny forehead.
Yes. Yeah. Of course, it's better. Yeah. So now I have some question about actually NFTs, because as you know, Jenny DAO is about NFTs and collecting art and photographs now, and music and video. And my question is, so you start photographs, but when did you start? I mean, how did you find out that NFT could be a good way for you to transmit your art? How did you fall into the rabbit hole of NFTs, actually?
Good question. Well, for me, photography has always been about evolution. You know, I've always liked. Photography is such a broad subject, and there's so many different things to learn. So I've always loved, you know, all the different facets, from making one's own prints in the darkroom to framing my own work. I've sort of taught myself to frame over the years, and I really enjoy that aspect of using your hands and working with, like, wood is a beautiful material to work with. I print my own work in my studio. I've developed my own film. So there's all those different sort of layers to it. And then for me, NFTs, when I sort of first heard about it, for me, it was just the next sort of natural evolution of being a photographer. I really see it as the next chapter of, well, art history. You know, it's the next chapter of art, and photography is one of, for me, well, the most enjoyable art form out there. I'm a bit biased, obviously. But yeah, so I about five or 6 months ago, I really sort of took a deep dive into it. I started listening to clubhouses and people that were talking about NFTs on that, and I started befriending some people through that, and started forming this very small community of friends, and we started sort of learning together. It's
the best way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's why these DAOs are so special, I think, because we're all learning from each other. We've all got different life experiences, life skills, and it's about collaboration, you know. And so I brought out, I guess, about 5 or 6 months ago, I brought out 3 NFTs. I minted 3 NFTs on Foundation from Bastard Countryside, which is a book now obviously an NFT collection.
Yes.
And the NFTs just sat there. I didn't really do anything for quite a while. And then it was a bit of a light bulb moment when I saw Alejandro's carpools, and what he'd done is he'd shown the whole collection, the whole 50 pieces. So that struck a chord, and I was like, okay.
There is something to do.
Sorry?
You must have been, there is some things to do, I think. I think it's a nice thing to share.
Yeah, for me, it was the way he showed off the whole collection. And I think that was important for collectors to see. It was not just one isolated piece, it was part of this, you know, family. And so that was when I thought, right, I'm going to have to actually burn the 3 pieces that are up now and bring out the whole collection as one. And as soon as I did that, you know, things started to sell, and people started to understand the whole project, you know, how one piece related to the other. And I was able to communicate the ideas much stronger because it was all on show.
No, it's I totally get what you said, because it's true that when you can publish the whole collection, you can see the link, you can explain it to, okay, for example, we are curious this piece, but we can still see the other pieces of the collection and link it thanks now to your explanation. So it's totally true, and it's so beautiful to, you know, be able to everybody from each part of the world to acquire some of your job, some of your work, to support you, you know, to be part of your journey, actually. And I think this is why, like, we really believe in photography, because it's so natural. As I said to you earlier, it's so natural to share it into NFTs. It's so natural that you finally have back your owner property, the fact that you are the creator of the art, and that this art can be shared, resell. Okay, no problem, but you are the one who took this picture, and it's right in the blockchain. And this is why it's so beautiful. And this, I think, as a lot of people said, photography gonna be the new thing for 2022. I mean, not new as a trend, but new as ways that people are gonna discover that, yes, it's a good way to support, like, creator, you know. So it's beautiful.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think photography is going to be huge next year. I know so many photographers, like friends, but also photographers around the world, that are thinking about dipping their toe, so to speak. And I think there was a lot of precariousness. A lot of people weren't sure, and they've been sort of sitting on the sidelines for a few months. But now I feel like, there's this massive movement going on, and I don't think there's any going back now. You know, photography and NFTs are sort of a match made in heaven, like you said.
It's launched. It's nothing can stop it.
That's right. You know, it's gone. You know, it's liftoff.
And so I saw that you are part of RoDAO, right?
Yeah.
Such as Alejandro and Shane. That's right.
That's right. So
I did an interview of them actually a few weeks ago, and they are amazing. But I want to know, what is your vision of RoDAO actually? What do you think? How do you see it in the next years? And how can this platform can be improved actually? What can be, you know, better for this platform? What is it for you? How do you see it?
Well, we're hoping to be a sort of lighthouse for photography, really, and
Yes.
by that I mean for collectors and for photographers. So a place where they can meet and almost be. We want to build a huge collection, basically, a really big photography collection that brings in photographers that aren't yet in the NFT space, but also photographers that are already here and have been here for, you know, up to, you know, almost a year, working hard to get photography going.
Yes.
Perhaps haven't had, you know, a huge amount of success yet, but we, you know, they've been here and they've been grafting away, and making it easier for other people to come. So we feel like those photographers need to be rewarded, but also for photography to succeed, we need to welcome, you know, photographers that are big in, you know, outside of NFTs as well. So it's all about photography, basically, and about trying to support it as best as we can.
Yeah, so the people who have the knowledge into NFTs as photographer can actually teach and encourage and support the new one who want to start, but who thinks that they don't have the, you know, the capability, or they are not good enough, or they don't know. Because when you first see all this NFT and blockchain words, you see that it's a bit, you know, complicated. So this is what you want to be like, as you say, a lighthouse and a way to help and really build a community. It's not like everybody is in opposition. It's actually joining force to build something strong. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's beautifully put. Yeah, no, it's about trying to demystify the space and not compete. We're not competing with it. I don't see it as, you know, it's funny in the real world. I felt like there was always this feeling of competition.
Yes.
I say the real world, you know what I mean? In terms of, I was trying to, when I don't do editorial or commercial work anymore, but when I was in that world, I was competing against friends for those jobs. So maybe I was a part of an agency, and, you know, you'd be competing with someone that you know, you hang out with, that you know, that you admire, and it felt odd, but it felt like there was no other way. Whereas now I feel like we're all working for one goal, you know, and that's for photography to succeed and for us all to succeed and be able to make a living out of our artwork, you know. And going back to what you said about demystifying the space, for me it was, looking back 6 months ago when I was first trying to figure out how to do NFTs, it was so daunting, you know. I was like, like I said, I was in these clubhouses and trying to figure out my MetaMask, and not so many scams out there, and I fell for one, and just things like that, you know. I don't want anyone else to sort of fall for those sort of tricks, and you know, just make it easier for them. Yeah.
No, it's nice. No, it's nice. And so, what do you think of the leverage of photography as NFT over other modes? Like, so as we say together, it's gonna be, because photography was, you know, a bit on the shadow, but now it's gonna be huge. Because with all this DAO, all this movement, and people who actually, you know, now support more photograph. So you think it's gonna be not just a trend, it's gonna be something, we're gonna be really part of it. This is
absolutely
what we believe. Yeah.
Yeah. No. I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think what's amazing is about photography as a medium is, and what I've seen already is the galleries and the collections that are being built by individuals. I mean, I've sold some NFTs, but I've also bought lots of photography as well, and I'm at that point now where I've got maybe 30 photographs that I'm sort of thinking about how to curate, and I would need to get in a sort of an on-cyber gallery or something similar, and you know, I'm my own curator of my collection, and for me that's really powerful and exciting. You know, how you pair, you know, that piece, that artwork with that other artwork, and how you can create narratives and dialogues between the, you know, two friends' works. For me, that's really powerful, and I think the more that happens, the more that, you know, photography will become sort of ingrained in the NFT space. I just don't. Now that there's so many photographers that are selling amazing work, I just don't see that we can really go back.
No, so no, it's really good, and it's cool, you know, to be able to support artists from all over the world. Like, I think this is what is all NFTs about, but it's so beautiful to finally, you know, who you're supporting to, you know, who the money goes, you know, it's transparent, and it's such a normal evolution of art, but it's so nice what we are living right now, this movement, this changement, and be part of it. For you being a creator, or for us being a community who support creators, it's so beautiful, you know.
Yeah, I mean, Web3, I think I'm really interested to see how the sort of galleries and institutions are going to react to this. And
Yes.
for me, it's that they either connect with it and you know, start collaborating and getting on board, or I think they might struggle in the next, well, decade or so. But time will tell, you know. Obviously, I'm going to say that. You know?
Yeah, we'll see with the future. And about future, I have one last question for you. Do you think we could have some insight about your upcoming projects, or some hints about a new collection, or something that you can
Yeah.
say?
So I've got a few new projects on the go. For me, I'm a really slow worker, and by that I mean it takes me a while to sort of complete a project. Barca Countryside was 15 years, which is kind of insane, and my recent project Apiary was about 7 or 8 years to complete. So I'm working on a couple of new projects, one of which is something that it's a story I've been inspired about for years. I've made various projects around it, but I feel like it's this ongoing story that I'm trying to tell through different vehicles and mediums. And obviously for me, and the NFT is this new vehicle that I'm excited to explore this idea. And the idea was a story really. During the Second World War, the National Gallery, they stored all their paintings in this mine in North Wales, the place I was talking about before. So this is an old slate mine, and it was taken over in the 30s to set up these gallery walls, where they put all these 1900 paintings from the National Gallery in London. And there were Rembrandts and Turners and Van Dycks all sitting on these walls in this huge cavernous slate mine. And they had machines that regulated the temperature and the humidity. And it was the first time that the science of conservation was invented, because they were just looking after these paintings, and they had to keep at this perfect minimal temperature. And before that, they hadn't really understood that a fluctuating temperature would affect the paints and whatnot. So going back to that story where I was becoming, a bit lost with photography, the guys told me about this place, and we broke into this old mine, and lo and behold, these galleries were there, and I could see where the Rembrandt would have been, the Turner, and it was sort of this amazing moment where I was like, wow, this actually happened. And then I'd go back to the National Gallery in London and see these paintings, and I was trying to think how I could tell this story. So I've been photographing this space for many years, and I made a sort of short film with the dance choreographer called Wayne McGregor. And we filmed in the National Gallery, and we filmed his dancers there. And this program went out on BBC a couple of years ago. And I still feel like there's unfinished business there. So I'm going back soon to make some sort of moving image. And I see the images in the mind paired with the paintings in the National Gallery is something quite interesting. And I'm still trying to figure out how I can tell that story interestingly in a sort of native NFT piece. Because that for me is what's really exciting. We've seen a lot of photography come into the space that already exists as a still photograph, but we haven't seen too much of native photography to the NFT world.
Exactly, this is what I was about to say. So it's going to be your first collection made with your, how can I say, in the blockchain and metaverse, eyes, like something with this stuff that transform your life and your way of living and your way of photographing. And so it's going to be a kind of, not homage, how can I say, kind of, vision on photography, but with NFTs. So it's going to be really nice.
Yeah,
and since we know that you are Indiana Jones for taking picture, we are super excited to see the result.
Yeah, no, I left my hat there last time, so I've got to go and put it back. So, yeah.
No, okay, it's amazing. And oh, look, if one day you come by France, just tell me, and I would love to follow you in some, or show you some nice places. A
Well,
bit.
funnily enough, I don't think I'm going to make it, but I have an exhibition opening in Set. Is it Set in the south? And
Yes,
they're
yes.
showing vast countryside. So
Hey, when is it?
that opens in like the 11th of January, I think. And
Hey.
I was hoping to come, but obviously with the whole, you know what thing, COVID, I'm not
Till
sure.
when is it? Till when is till when is the exhibition going?
So it's on for a good month, I think.
I'm going. I have to go to the south of January. I'll go and I'll do a selfie with your art.
Okay. I'll
It's gonna
take
be
some photos and send them to me.
of course. It's
That'd be
amazing.
great.
On
Thank
my
you.
agenda. Okay, Robin, thank you so much. It was like so enriching, and we are so happy to have you on board with us. And
Thank you,
I
Lucy. Thank you very much. And I'm sorry about the lights. I mean, as a photographer, I should have got the lighting right. You know, that's part of the sin. That's terrible. You know.
What was the most important is that your beautiful art was in the center and that we have beautiful insight about it. So thank you so much for that. Really, Robin. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. No, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And please, if you can come to France, just tell me. I'll go. Anyway, end of January to Set because I go to the south. So I just come to see your art in real.
Let me know how it goes. I'll hopefully make it, but if I don't, I'd love
I'm
to
gonna
hear.
be fine.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be sure there is a lot of spotlight.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Robin, keep in touch. Thank you so much, and have a beautiful end of the day. Okay.
Thanks, Lucy. Bye.
Bye.
See ya. Bye.